This video and all of its contents, including any opinions expressed by the narrator, are strictly for entertainment purposes only and is not intended in any way as a substitute for professional services and consultation from a licensed therapist, doctor, attorney, or other licensed professional service provider. Each person must make their own life decisions, and those decisions are theirs. Welcome back to Find Your Alpha. I'm back at you this week with another great story, and you can see the title on your screen. Wife's change of life baby isn't mine, but she wants me to raise it. Now, when we're talking about a change of life baby, there's really no one definition of that term, but typically it's referring to a woman who has a baby that's unexpected after the age of 40. And in this case, as you're going to find out, this woman is 44 years old. So let's get into the story. And here's the original post. And this guy starts off and he says, "I'm seeking some advice on a major life decision I'm about to make. I'm almost certain I know what I have to do, but would like to get the opinion of others before acting. I'm 46 years old and my wife is 44. For this, I'll refer to myself as Larry and to my wife as Katie. We have two grown children, a son 23 and a daughter 21. Katie has another child on the way, scheduled to arrive in about 3 months. He wasn't planned, but I was overjoyed at the thought of becoming a dad again, even at my advanced age." What are you talking about advanced age? You're only 46. Before I get to the issue at hand, I'll provide some background on my situation. I've worked for the same company for 19 years and earn a good living. My wife was a stay-at-home mom until our daughter turned 16, then she got a job. Katie worked in an administrative position for a company close to our home for a little over 4 years. Then a few months back, she abruptly switched jobs and now holds a similar position across town. While she did get a modest bump in pay, it wasn't enough to justify leaving her previous job. At the time, she said she needed a change and just grew tired of working at her previous employer. Now, I put that down there as a red flag. Why did this woman just abruptly leave her job, which was close to her home, to go across town for basically the same job with a little bump in pay? That's something this guy should have dug into. More about this later. Now, here's the issue at hand. 2 days ago, I was contacted by the wife of Katie's former boss. I'll call her Brenda. Brenda informed me that she discovered proof that her husband and my wife had a physical affair 6 months ago, right before Katie left the company. So here's another situation that comes at a guy out of left field when he's thinking, oh my gosh, I've got the perfect life, I've got the perfect wife, and he's advised that his wife has been cheating on him. At first, I didn't believe it. That is until Brenda emailed me copies of their communications. I won't lie, seeing those messages broke me. From their communications, it appears the affair lasted about a month, and they were together on at least 3 occasions at my house, he says in capital letters underlined. In one of their final communications, her boss asked her to leave me and said if she did, he would leave Brenda. My wife replied that she couldn't because she loved me. That's a hell of a way to show it, isn't it? That's where it appears she ended their fling. This ironically coincided to when she started looking for another job. See what I said before? After she gave notice to her boss, there were numerous messages from him begging her to stay, offering her things like a big pay raise, additional bonuses, and allowing her to work from home 3 days a week. He also promised to keep their relationship professional going forward. Sure he did. But my wife refused his offers and left the company. From what I can tell, she has been no contact with him since that time. According to Brenda, after she found out about the affair, she kicked her husband out and filed for divorce. Not only that, she reported the situation to his HR department and he was fired from his management position last week. She told me it is her goal to make him suffer and regret what he did for the rest of his life. So Brenda is one woman you don't want to mess around with. I thank Brenda for making me aware of the situation, and we plan to keep in touch. That night I confronted Katie. At first, she tried denying it. Well, of course she did. That's always what they do. Then I showed her the mountain of messages. Seeing the evidence, she broke down crying, admitted to everything, and begged for forgiveness. She said all the things you'd expect a remorseful person to say after getting caught cheating. I told her right there that I would be filing for divorce. Good, because that's what you should do. She begged me not to, stating she broke off the affair and quit her job because she loved me and wants us to be together forever. She also said we need to provide a wonderful home for our son when he arrives. I told her if he is mine, and he says that in capital letters, I will be a great father to him whether I was married to her or not. Katie looked at me puzzled and asked what I meant. I told her she knows what I mean, and then informed her the day he is born, he will be DNA tested. I then said if it turns out he's not mine, I will play no role in his life. Hearing this sent her into a full meltdown. She kept insisting that the child was mine. I told her, we'll see. With this, she ran upstairs crying, and I used the opportunity to call her parents and explain what was going on. Smart. They came right over to comfort and support me. Katie admitted everything to them and cried throughout their visit. That was a tough day, as later that same evening, I also ended up telling both my kids about the situation after they got home and saw us all sitting in the living room with their crying mother. Again, that is smart because now he's told all of his immediate family so the wife cannot spin a story. They were in disbelief and really upset by their mom's actions. That night, I moved Katie into the spare bedroom. I've also stopped sharing meals with her and have spoken very little to her since. I don't think I can live like this for another 90 days until the child is born. Taking this into consideration, should I move out or should I require her to move in with her parents until the birth? Now, this is another guy asking that same question. I've had several stories where guys get into this situation and they ask the same thing. I would ask her to move out. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, and I'm torn right now, but I know I have to do something or I'm going to snap. My dad suggested I at least talk to a lawyer about the situation to protect myself and my assets. I'm going to do that next week. Again, that is a smart move and smart for your dad to recommend it. Thanks for reading this, Larry. So that was his original post. And now I want to take a look at a few of the responses he got back from the community. The first one is from a guy. He says, don't wait. Get the DNA test now. Absolutely. There's a simple test you can have done now that will show if you're the father or not. It's expensive, but well worth it. My son just went through this crap with his former girlfriend. She was trying to pin a baby on him. After threatening to take legal action, she finally agreed to the test, and what do you know? The baby wasn't his. Next, here's a response from a woman. She says, I'm not an attorney, but I used to work in family court. You need to have DNA testing done now. So here's another person telling him to get that test done now. And I agree 100%. You also need to meet with an attorney ASAP to discuss the divorce and paternity laws in your state. If the DNA test shows you're not the father and you don't plan on staying married, you should file for divorce immediately and also file a challenge of paternity case. A good attorney will guide you through this. Don't procrastinate. And then finally, here's another one from a woman. Now listen to this. She says, I would encourage you to thoroughly think things through before ending a 20+ year marriage. Your emotions are raw now, but over time the wounds of betrayal will heal, and you may look back and regret giving up what you have. I'll regretfully share that I had an affair and got pregnant by another man 13 years ago. Initially, my husband was going to divorce me. Well, he should have, and didn't want anything to do with the baby. I refused to give up on us, and eventually he agreed to give it a go for the sake of the two children we had together. It was rocky at first, but my husband quickly fell in love with the child, a son, and over time, I think he has fallen back in love with me. She says, I had to earn it though, and I continue to work to earn his love and trust every day, as I don't feel I deserve someone like him. Well, you don't, you're a cheater. He's a wonderful father to our three children, and I'm just a flawed person who's grateful he had a heart big enough to give me another chance and to be a great father to a son that's not biologically his. The child adores him, and I believe my husband is truly happy now and grateful he kept our family together. He probably is happy that he's got his kids there with him and probably loves that child that he's raised as his own. But I'll tell you what, deep down, he's not happy with you. I can tell you that. If there is a heaven, I assure you my husband will have no problem getting in. He's a wonderful person. Wishing you and your family all the best. So he was so great that you went out and cheated on him. And on top of that, you got pregnant with another guy and then stuck him with the baby. Yeah, you really love the guy. Okay, and now he's got a series of updates. But before we get to the updates, I want to encourage you. If you're liking what you've heard so far, hit that like button. That'll help get this video seen by people all over the world. Now, let's take a look at those updates. The first one was from 6 days following his original post. He says, I want to first thank everyone who gave me feedback. I didn't think my post would garner so much attention, since I'm not part of Generation Z or even Generation Y for that matter. I'm still feeling terrible, but reading your responses has improved my mental state a bit. I didn't realize cheating was such a common thing these days. I guess I've been living in my own bubble for too long. I took my dad's advice and met with an attorney. Boy, I'm glad I did. She recommended I have the DNA test done now. She also explained that upon getting the results, if the tests show I'm not the father, she recommends filing a challenge of paternity case. Well, that's what that woman who gave you feedback recommended as well. I also got this suggestion from several of you on here, and I'm very appreciative. I talked to Katie about this, and she's agreed to do it. We have an appointment set up for next week, but Katie keeps asking me not to do the test until after the baby is born. That's because she wants to get you attached to that baby, and she knows if she does it before and it turns out you're not the father, you're going to bolt. Whereas if you go through the birth with her and then you see that baby, you're going to get attached to it. That's what she's thinking. She's even offered to sign an agreement stating she will not hold me responsible if I'm not the father, though she swears I am. I advised my attorney of Katie's offer, and my attorney insisted I proceed with the test and told me to stop talking so much to Katie. I took her advice. Well, good, because you have been talking to her too much. I explained this to Katie, and she tearfully accepted my decision. Katie has been a nervous wreck and has taken PTO, that's paid time off, until after the test date as she can't concentrate. Her reaction leads me to believe the worst, but we'll see. As for us, we're still the same, sleeping separately, not taking meals together, and talking little unless it's been about the DNA testing. My kids are great, and I've encouraged them to support their mom. I also told them no matter what happens with the paternity test, they will soon have a baby brother, and he's going to need their love and support. They understand and agreed. I have to be honest, at this point I'm torn about the paternity outcome I want. On one hand, I'd love to have another son, but on the other hand, I'm 99% sure I'm going to divorce Katie regardless of the paternity. If the test shows he's not mine, it will make my decision to divorce that much easier. I'll come back with an update once I get the test results. Ciao for now, Larry. And now for his second update, 39 days following the first update. He says, hello all. We went in for the test a week after I last posted and I got the results back. The child is not mine. I am heartbroken. Remember before when I said I was torn about the paternity outcome? I wasn't. I really wanted that baby to be mine. When I got the news, it felt like the wind had been sucked out of my lungs, and I had a full-blown panic attack for the first time in my life. Katie is a complete mental case now and has taken leave from her company. She continues pleading with me and has pledged to do everything to get me to stay in the marriage, but I'm done. Good. That's smart. Stay strong. This has truly broken me, and I want it all to be over with. I asked her to move in with her parents as I can't take being in the same house with her, as the mental stress of the constant crying and begging is overwhelming. She reluctantly agreed, but only if I'd promised to keep talking to her. No, 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 quit talking to her. I agreed, but limited our contacts to 2 calls per week. Big mistake, because you really shouldn't be talking to her anytime unless it's an emergency or something about your kids that's really important. I've been sticking to this, though she tries calling me every day, but I typically don't respond. You shouldn't be responding at all. In one of her recent texts, she told me she's not going to inform her former boss that he's the father and will not be pursuing him for support. I told her that is not my concern. Katie went on to say she wants me to be his father and that no one but our immediate family would ever know I'm not. She said I could think of him as my adopted child. This is another woman that tried to play off a child she had with another man as, oh, just think of him as your adopted child. She told her husband. I think I had another story like this, or maybe it was a story I heard on some other channel. He goes on and says, I blew up. I again told her I have nothing against the child, but I will never play any significant role in his life, as I have no more connection to him than a man off the streets. She cried and pleaded for me to change my mind and even tried to guilt me into it. Don't worry, guys, my resolve is strong. So that's where we are now. I'm getting divorced and living at the house with my 2 adult kids, and my wife is a 45-year-old, soon-to-be single mom living with her parents. One last thing. My regional president talked to me last week about moving down to North Carolina to run the office down there, and I'm strongly considering it. My kids want me to take it and said if I move, they are coming with me. My son is a skilled tradesman and can get a job just about anywhere, while my daughter will be graduating from college in a few months and will just be starting out. If I end up taking the job, it won't be for the money. It will be to get away from this area and to move to a place with milder winters. That's all I've got for now. I'll come back with another update once everything shakes out. Larry. And now for his final update so we can see how everything turned out for Larry and his family. And he posted this final update 10 months following his last update. He says, I'm back to give you what should be my final update. A lot has changed since I last posted, and thankfully most everything has been positive. First of all, Katie and I are divorced, and she had her baby. It was an amicable split, and we divided our assets 50-50 with no alimony or child support. Well, that's the way it should be. You shouldn't have to pay her alimony because she cheated on you, and also you shouldn't have to pay child support because the child's not yours and your kids are grown. Also, at the suggestion of my lawyer, part of the agreement was that Katie would not give the child my last name. She was sad about this and initially objected, but finally agreed, giving the child her maiden name. I didn't realize parents can assign whatever last name they want to a child. My attorney explained in our state, you can give your child any last name you want. She said she's seen women do this multiple times and it just causes confusion for everyone. Katie and her son are still living with her parents. I'll talk more about this later. Next, I took the job in North Carolina and absolutely love my new position and the area. Everything is so clean and new down here, and I live midway between the mountains and the ocean. I bought a brand new house and my son moved in with me 3 months ago. He's already working steady, and is earning nearly 20% more than he earned up north. My daughter will be wrapping up her degree in December, and she plans on moving down here at the beginning of the year. My parents have been down twice and have fallen in love with the area. They are considering buying a patio home and eventually want to retire here. I'm pushing them to do it now, but they're a little hesitant on pulling up stakes. I think I've almost got them convinced though. Now for Katie and her son. My kids tell me that she's been talking about quitting her job and moving down here too. This has upset her parents as she's their only child. She's trying to convince them to move with her, but they're not interested. My kids have temporarily gotten her to tap the brakes on this, explaining to their mom that she'd be losing their grandparents as trusted babysitters. I hope to God she doesn't move here, as doing so will once again make my life so complicated and stressful. She hasn't mentioned anything to me about this, and I hope she doesn't. If she decides to move here, there's nothing I can do about it, so for now I'm just letting things play out. Right after our divorce was final, Katie continued calling and texting me like we were still married. Last week I told her she should only contact me when there's an important issue involving our kids. She said okay, but continued contacting me over simple, unimportant nonsense. Inevitably, each of the conversations always goes to her asking me how I'm doing and her telling me how much she misses me, how sorry she is for what she's done, and how much I'd love the baby if I just held him one time. See how she's trying to break him down? That's why you shouldn't be talking to her. I quickly shut this down and once again explained to her that I have no ill feelings whatsoever towards her baby and hope he's healthy, happy, and grows up to be a successful young man. I again reiterated that I will not play any significant role in his life. I said if I ever see him at events with our kids, I of course will be kind and treat him well, but nothing more. I also told her to stop calling and texting me. I told Katie to email me when there are important things to discuss about our kids. I will then decide if we need to discuss the matter for some reason. She was unhappy about this and cried, saying talking to me was the one thing that's been keeping her going, and if I take that away, she just might lose it. I held firm and she eventually complied with my wishes. So that's where things are now. Even though Katie obliterated the great life I once had, I feel like I've been reborn. In fact, I feel as alive and forward-looking now as I did when I was 20. I actually feel better now because I have complete confidence in myself today that I didn't have back then. For those of you that are curious, I've not started dating again, but plan to start after the first of the year, taking it slow. I'll never walk down the aisle again, but I would like to find a woman to share my life with. Sorry, Katie, that person will not be you, he says with 3 exclamation points. In closing, I again want to thank all of you who gave me advice and moral support. You were a big help to me at the lowest point in my life, and I really appreciate that. Larry. So that's his story, and it's really a shame what happened to this guy. He's in his mid-40s. He's thinking he's living a great life with a great wife, great family. He's going to have another baby, so he's looking forward to the rest of his life, and then boom, he finds this out. But overall, I think this guy, once he found out about the cheating and that the child wasn't his, he handled things perfectly. The only mistake he made was he kept talking to his wife, and that caused more complications for him. Whereas if he would have went no contact or very low contact, it wouldn't have been as stressful for him. And now I want to cover what I think are the morals of this story. First, female nature is present at every age. It doesn't matter if they're 18 or 82. Next, don't ignore sudden life changes like abruptly changing jobs like this woman did. You need to dig into these situations and find out, why are you making this change all of a sudden? What's behind it? Next, never evolve into a father figure for your girlfriend, fiance, or wife. And this is an important message out there for all the men who are in relationships. Because oftentimes in these relationships, these more mature relationships where you've been with a woman for a long time, they start to think of you as their father. Now, not like their dad, in that type of relationship, but they start to think of you as a guy who is always going to be by their side and is going to love them and take care of them no matter what they do, just like their father would. They can make all kinds of mistakes and do all types of bad things, but in the end, their dad is going to love them no matter what. They start to think of their husband, their long term boyfriend, the same way, and you don't want that. You always want to make sure that you do not get into a situation where she looks at you like a father figure. Next, always DNA test. That goes without saying with this story. Next, once cheating has occurred, the relationship is over. I say that on all of these stories. No matter how much history you have together. Just like this couple. They got 2 kids. They've been together well over, 23 years. It doesn't matter. Once they've broken that trust, once that trust has been broken, it cannot be repaired. The relationship will never be the same. And finally, living a good life is the best revenge. I always like to end these stories in that way and encourage men out there that have gone through turmoil like this, that living your best life and being successful is the best way to get revenge against that cheating partner you had. So those are my thoughts, and now it's time for me to hear from you. What did you think of this story? Would you have handled things like this guy, or would you have done things differently? Also, have you been through something like this? If you have, tell us about it in the comments. Also, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you